Now, we've spoken about some of the issues that are there in your essays, and of course, there is a wide variety of topics that you've taken, and we cannot do justice to that in this small interaction. But before I let you go, I'd like you to talk a little about what was your inspiration behind starting to write.
Well, actually, this book has, it's almost 4 years in the making, and it has shades and nuances of maybe my own personal life, because I spent, as you mentioned, about 10 years in the army. And after that, I was for 10 years in the corporate world as a CEO of 3 different companies, where I viewed security from a very different point of view. Because while I was in the army, the element of security was in terms of insurgency, security of the nation, counterterrorism, and also a stint of seeing what a failed country, what it takes to bring up a failed country or a hinterland that has failed, where war becomes an economy. But when I came into the corporate world, security became a hindrance. So waiting at airports and looking at these guys who are checking us and frisking us, when I knew that I'm not carrying a bomb, why is he wasting so much of my time? Or realizing that our consignments have to be double checked and triple checked, or a cost structure that goes up because of each security instance. Right. And I realized that a lot of the normal citizenry looks at the security forces with a schizophrenic view.
And
so,
as a nuisance in certain
yes,
sense.
so when things are going fine, then you don't want them to be on your way. I mean, you get irritated when there is a roadblock that stops you, yes, when you're on your way to watch a movie. Yeah. But when things go wrong, then you are, then all of us are shouting at the security forces and saying they're not doing their job. And it's a very tough, it's a thankless job, because frankly, for each instance that happens, they are, sort of crucified, they're skewered to the wall. But nobody thanks them for the thousands of instances that don't happen, or the number of plots that are foiled, or the number of plots that don't even take off because of the deterrence value of that roadblock, right? Right. So I think that was the second perspective. And the third perspective was to say that I truly believe we are at a time now where you cannot depend, and you ought not to believe that it's only men in uniform or women in uniform who are going to solve this problem, because this is way beyond their capability. Because of the way the problem has manifested and changed itself. And now it has to be truly every citizen who is made aware of the cost that they pay because of the sense of security or insecurity. After the Mumbai attacks, you know that there were several drills that were put in place. You go into a hotel and they check, yes, your car from below, and they check you for weapons, and
the
small children.
Been constructed,
exactly.
Fire gates.
Small children, 5-year-old, 6-year-old children are being frisked for weapons. All this comes at an economic cost.
Right.
All this policemen that you see, the new battalions that have been raised, the CCTVs that have been put in place, the bulletproof vehicles that have been bought from money that should have gone into building schools, into building hospitals, into building roads, because somebody is paying for it.
And vis-a-vis the investment of the terrorist group is very
minuscule. It's minuscule. For a terrorist, so when a terrorist hits one hotel, all the 6,000 hotels have to be protected hereafter. Right. Tomorrow if he hits a school, every school will have to be protected. So in many ways, unless we realize the costs, and very often the leadership of the country has to respond, especially in a democracy, has to respond to the calls of the people. So when people start asking for more boots on the ground, they need to realize that at the end of the day, they are paying the bill. And that bill has to come from their own earnings, which are already becoming very difficult to sort of make a living. So each time we ask for a security infrastructure to be stepped up, and we must realize this. We must realize that there is no silver CCTV bullet out there. The role of people in creating an environment of security. Let me illustrate this with another example. You and I know this, that there is several $1 million worth of contraband that comes into this country. Now, the contraband could be fake medicines, it could be fake DVDs, it could be fake watches, fake Louis Vuitton bags. Now, the conduits through which they come, the containers in which they come, the retail chains where they are sold in every city, these same conduits can be used to transport a few kilos of RDX, because these conduits are already functioning. Now, why do pirated DVDs come to Delhi? They come to Delhi because people buy it. They buy it knowing fully well that what they're doing is an illegal activity.
And there are open markets for it.
And there are open markets for it. And there are open markets. Of course, these guys who are doing it are bad and they should be arrested and they should be thrown into jail. But they are out there in the market and the payment because someone is buying it. So in many ways, you cannot have zero tolerance to terrorism in a country that is tolerant of every other crime. So to have this belief that somehow it's the security forces who are going to be responsible, so they will check the containers to make sure it has only fake Louis Vuitton bags but not RDX, it's not possible. And I think that's the point I'm trying to make in this book, that unless we all sort of realize our own accountability of the situation that we are in, crucifying the security forces whenever things go bad is a nice way to let off steam, but it's not going to improve the situation anyway.
Right. So it is truly an everyman's
war.
It
is truly an everyman's war.
And on that note, we'll wind up this discussion. It was great talking to you, sir, and
Thanks,
getting that view of the practitioner as to what really security entails in this country. We'll wrap up this edition of the review of Everyman's War. I hope the interaction, small as it might have been, will help you make a decision whether this book will make it to your bookshelf. And thank you very much for watching.